Hello, everyone. Welcome to CSTGIA Week 29 of 2026. This is Dr. Rhonda Farrell, the founder of CSTGIA, bringing you from adaptive cyber enterprises to anticipatory cyber leadership, shaping the future before others recognize it. Over the past 28 weeks, CSTGIA has intentionally expanded cybersecurity from a technical discipline into one of the defining leadership capabilities of the modern enterprise. Each stage that we have discussed has strengthened our ability to defend, govern, anticipate, and continuously evolve in an increasingly AI-enabled world. Week 28 demonstrated that mature organizations can continuously adapt before disruption overtakes them. Now, week 29 asks the next and perhaps most transformational question. Once organizations can continuously adapt, how do leaders begin creating the future before others recognize it? Because in 2026, artificial intelligence accelerates, autonomous systems proliferate, digital infrastructure converges, trust becomes increasingly fragile, decision times compress, and innovation compounds. So adaptation enables survival, but anticipation creates a leadership opportunity. So the 2026 reality is that leadership has become the greatest cybersecurity variables. For decades, cybersecurity was viewed primarily as a technology challenge. Organizations invested in stronger infrastructure, more capable tools, better detection, faster response, greater automation. But today, those capabilities have just become what's expected. So competitive advantage is no longer solely determined by who possesses the best technology, but it is increasingly being determined by who asks the better questions, who recognizes emerging patterns first, who understands second and third and fourth order consequences before they become operational realities, and who intentionally shapes the future rather than simply responding to it. Leadership, not technology, is becoming the new greatest differentiator between organizations that merely survive disruptions and those that define the future. So the organizations leading in 2026 share a common characteristics. They no longer plan only for what is likely to happen. They intentionally prepare for all that could happen going forward. So the emerging risk is that adaptive organizations are sometimes without anticipatory leaders. Many organizations have successfully embraced continuous improvement. They invest in AI-enabled operations, digital transformation, cyber resilience, workforce redevelopment, automation, governance modernization, and many still make one critical mistake. They wait. They wait for regulations. They wait for competitors. They wait for customer demand. They wait for market disruption. They wait for a crisis. So adaptation thus remains reactive. Even if it happens somewhat quickly, the result is still predictable. Organizations become highly effective at responding to change, but they rarely become those same organizations that are creating the change. So the future does not belong exclusively to organizations that adapt well. It increasingly belongs to organizations whose leaders are intentionally shaping the emerging global possibilities. So the next evolution is to anticipatory cyber leadership. This is the discipline of intentionally creating organizational conditions that prepare people, systems, technologies, governance, and partnerships for futures that have not yet fully emerged. It is leadership grounded in curiosity rather than certainty, possibility rather than prediction, learning rather than perfection, because the future is rarely built by those who simply react well. It is built by those who consistently think further ahead than everyone else. Anticipatory leaders recognize that cybersecurity has become much more than protecting digital assets. It now influences economic resilience, national competitiveness, public trust, AI governance, digital sovereignty, workforce capability, critical infrastructure, and democratic institutions. Cybersecurity has become one of leadership's greatest strategic responsibilities. So there are 5 leadership shifts towards anticipatory cyber leadership. One is moving from adaptation to anticipation. Again, adaptive organizations respond very effectively. However, anticipatory leaders recognize the emerging conditions before the response becomes necessary. They continuously explore weak signals, emerging technologies, societal shifts, geopolitical developments, demographic trends, changing customer expectations. Instead of asking, what should we do now? They ask, what will future leaders wish we had started today? Because leadership begins where prediction becomes preparation. Number 2, from managing risk to engineering opportunity. Traditional cybersecurity asks, how do we reduce exposure? Anticipatory leadership asks, what opportunities become possible because we understand risk better than others? Every disruption creates new markets, new capabilities, new partnerships, new business models, and new public value. Great leaders understand that uncertainty produces opportunity for those prepared to recognize it. So the objective is no longer merely avoiding disruption, it is intentionally designing advantage. Because organizations that engineer opportunity continuously outperform those that simply manage uncertainty. So we need to move from AI assistance to executive decision intelligence. Artificial intelligence should never replace executive judgment. It should strengthen it. Leading organizations increasingly integrate AI to identify emerging patterns, model alternative futures, simulate cascading impacts, reveal hidden relationships, accelerate strategic thinking. So the objective is not automated leadership. The objective is better informed leadership. Human wisdom, AI capability shared continuously, because AI accelerates analysis. It's the leadership that provides the meaning. So we also need to move from strategic planning to continuous future design. Annual planning cycles were designed for relatively stable environments, and today's environment changes continuously. Anticipatory leaders replace static planning with continuous strategic design. They regularly revisit assumptions. They challenge established thinking. They evaluate emerging technologies. They conduct scenario exercise. They model second and third order effects. Instead of asking, what is our strategy? They ask, how should our strategy evolve as this future is unfolding? Because the future rewards organizations capable of redesigning themselves continuously. So from organizational learning to ecosystem leadership, organizations are no longer complete standing alone. They participate within very complex ecosystems, and adaptive leaders strengthen their internal capability. Anticipatory leaders, on the other hand, strengthen entire industries. They contribute to standards development, workforce education, public-private partnerships, cross-sector collaboration, responsible AI governance, and international cooperation, because their influence extends beyond their organizational boundaries. Because the strongest organizations are the one creating those strong ecosystems. So we need to undergo a leadership mindset shift. Anticipatory leaders think differently. Rather than asking what happened, they ask what is emerging. Rather than asking what does everyone else see, They ask, what is no one talking about yet? Rather than asking, what are today's priorities? They ask, what capabilities will tomorrow demand? Because leadership increasingly becomes the ability to recognize possibilities before they become obvious. So we need to build an anticipatory organizations, and organizations preparing for this future intentionally strengthen 5 capabilities. Number 1, strategic curiosity. Leaders actively seek perspectives beyond their own industries because innovations often emerge where disciplines intersect. Number 2, they harness and utilize systems thinking. Every decision creates consequences. The best leaders understand that interconnectedness rather than isolated effects will have downstream impacts that the organization must not only see, but assess for success. Number 3, decision intelligence. Information alone is insufficient. Organizations must be transforming that information into insight and into action continuously. Number 4, need to rely upon a human and AI collaboration. Technology expands human capability, but it should never replace accountability. So the future belongs to organizations where people and intelligence systems continuously strengthen one another. And then lastly is learning velocity. Knowledge is compounding, and organizations that learn faster consistently outperform organizations that simply work harder. So our reflection this week is that leadership has always involved making decisions under uncertainty. However, today's uncertainty is simply moving much faster. So ask yourself about your organization. What assumptions that we have been making have remained unchanged for far too long? What technologies are going to reshape our organization over the next 5 years? Which capabilities should we begin developing before they become urgent? What decisions are we postponing because the future remains unclear? And lastly, how can we intentionally create the future we hope to inherit? The greatest leadership advantage is rarely certainty. It is, however, clarity and preparedness. So our week 29 leadership challenge is for you all to choose one emerging trend affecting your organization. Rather than analyzing today's impact alone, develop 3 possible future scenarios. For each scenario, ask, what opportunities emerge? What risks accelerate? What capabilities become essential? And what should we begin building today? Then identify one meaningful action your organization can take this week, preferably today, because the future is not created by large decisions made occasionally. It is created by small decisions that are made consistently. So looking ahead, adaptive organizations continuously improve. Anticipatory leaders intentionally shape tomorrow. Our closing thought for today is that throughout the CSTGIA journey with each and every one of you, one principle has remained remarkably consistent. Technology alone has never determined history, but leadership has. AI will continue advancing. Cyber threats will continue evolving. Infrastructure will continue converging. Autonomous systems will continue expanding. But the organizations that thrive tomorrow will not necessarily possess the most technological solutions. They will possess leaders who consistently learn before others, think before others, prepare before others, adapt before others, and most importantly, create future that others eventually will choose to follow. Because in the cybersecurity environment in 2026 and beyond, cyber resilience protects, cyber wisdom guides, strategic cyber foresight anticipates, adaptive cyber enterprises evolve, but anticipatory cyber leadership creates the future. The future will never simply arrive, but it is continuously shaped by leaders courageous enough to imagine it before everyone else. Again, this is Dr. Rhonda Farrell, the founder of CSTGIA, wrapping up week 29 from adaptive cyber enterprises to anticipatory cyber leadership, shaping the future before others recognize it's here.